Hi everyone. So I had this idea to do a vlog about the Thought Bubble Festival, which is a big comics event here in the UK that I go to most years. I was trying to remember how many times I've been. It must be around 5 or 6 times, I think. I'm not entirely sure, but it's sort of the biggest festival in the UK that showcases to and caters to a lot of kind of indie publishing, as opposed to the more mainstream comics publishing that you see at events like the big superhero comic cons, of which there are quite a few, I think, in the course of a year, usually, not when there's a pandemic on, but usually. So Thought Bubble is a really big event where they do have a little of that, but they also have an awful lot of kind of the more alternative indie publishing that's the kind of world that I'm part of. So it's a really lovely event to go to. It's quite an exhausting experience. It's a 2-day event up in Yorkshire, so I have to sort of take a train up and stay for a couple of nights. I've taken to, in the last few years, staying an extra night, which, even though that sort of cuts into my profits massively to have a third kind of hotel night to pay for, I just find that I enjoy the experience more if I don't have to pack up my table at the end of Sunday and kind of run to the station and get on a train and then get back to London really late, carrying all my stuff and completely exhausted from the 2 days of festival that I've just done. So these days I kind of stay up in Harrogate, where the festival is, for the final night as well, Sunday night, and then travel back on Monday morning when I'm a bit more kind of rested. And I just find that makes it less tiring and less stressful. So I think it's worth doing. For anyone that doesn't know what I'm actually talking about, what I do at these events, I table at the events. So as a creator of comics and books and other little illustrated products that I sell, I pay for a table at the festival and I sit behind it and sell my stuff to anyone who happens to be interested. It's kind of, I've done a lot of it over the years. It's always kind of really enjoyable in one sense, in that you get to meet the people that are reading your work, you get to meet other creators, you get to meet publishers, reviewers, printers, all the people involved in our little industry. It gives you a chance to kind of meet them. And so it's kind of a useful networking, that's a horrible word, but kind of that's what it is, I guess. Just a way to kind of make connections in the industry and renew kind of friendships and, meet people that you may have worked with but never met face to face. So that's the fun side of it. And meeting people that enjoy your work is lovely as well. But at the same time, for me, as a kind of very socially awkward person, I find, doing 2 8-hour days of having to be constantly on and talking to people and kind of friendly, and you can't sort of really relax at all throughout the weekend. I find that quite draining. So it's always kind of a mixed bag for me as an experience, but definitely worth doing. I guess for a lot of people, it's not always, you're not in it to make a lot of money, because with all the costs, especially if it's outside of the area where you live and it's a 2-day event, you will have a lot of costs. But hopefully, I usually make enough to make it worth doing. So I thought it would be interesting to talk about, partly because it's one of the only things I'm really doing this year, and partly because it'll be slightly different this year with the pandemic. There's some COVID kind of safety protocols in place that might make it a little different. So it'll be interesting to see what it's like. And I also thought it might be kind of interesting to show you how I prepare for the event as well, and the sort of organisation and planning that goes into it. So depending on what sort of creator you are, how many products you're selling, and what sort of stage of your career you're at, it varies a bit how much actual planning you need to do for an event like this. Obviously there's a way to do it very casually, where you can just show up, chuck a few comics on the table, and that's pretty much it. But even with that, you still need to kind of book your trains, book your hotel, and your travel plans and things like that. But because I now have quite a range of products that I sell, I do spend a bit of time kind of organising and planning ahead, and also kind of restocking, checking what stock I need and kind of restocking items before I go, and then packing it all. So I thought I would kind of film myself going through that process and show you what it's like. So my first step is usually to pull up my spreadsheets. Yay, lovely spreadsheets. That show me what I took with me at the last event. I was going to say last year, but it's been 2 years since this event. I've been to this event, so it's good to have a reminder. So I look at what I sold at the previous event and use that to help me make decisions about what I'm going to take with me, how much of each item I might want to take with me. That's always a kind of delicate balance with this, because obviously the more you try and carry, the more of a hassle that is to kind of take, bags and suitcases and things with you. But at the same time, you don't want to kind of pay to be at the event and then run out of stock too early. So it's a constant balance between trying to get, the exact right amount of things with you that you think you're likely to sell. So I use the same spreadsheet that I use every time, but I just adjust it slightly each time. And it's a list of my products, and then it's a list of the prices of each thing. How many I've taken with me, and then I fill it in afterwards with how many I've sold. And I also print that out and have it with me on the table during the event so that I can keep a tally of sales. Again, like you can do these events and not have to do any of this, but I find it helpful because I know I go often, to be able to have that information to hand when I'm making decisions about what I want to do for the next event. And it's also handy, it's all the information's in one place. I've got my prices. I don't forget, what I've been charging for stuff. And I have that in front of me at the table as well. So when people are buying things, I don't have to kind of faff around and go, oh, what's the price of, what am I selling this for again? So yeah, looking at my spreadsheet from last year, I can kind of see what I took too much of that didn't sell and what I didn't take enough of. And from that, I can start my planning of what I'm going to take this time. So I'll duplicate the spreadsheet, delete all the quantities and any items that I won't have this year, and add in any new ones. And then I'll decide what I can fit in my little suitcase to take up with me for this year's event. So along with the stuff that I'm actually going to be selling, there's also lots of other stuff I have to take with me. For example, book stands and things to kind of use to display the products. I have a little stand here, which is like a folding cardboard zine stand. I remember it being quite complicated to put together, so I'm taking the instructions with me, and that will probably take me a little while to figure out because I haven't used it in so long. But that's a good one to be able to have zines on different levels. I usually take this, which is a sort of A4 print stand. I'm not going to take it this year. I've decided I'm not going to take A4 prints. I don't think I sold very many of them last year, so I don't think I would sell that many, and to have to kind of carry this around on the train along with everything else I'm taking, it's just a bit of a faff. So I have little A5 prints, and I think I'm gonna just take these and also maybe have a little sign telling people they can get A4 versions if they want, and maybe telling them that if they want to pay for it there, that I can send it when I get home and I won't charge them any extra postage for it. So that would just help reduce the amount of stuff I have to carry. I also take little paper bags. Most people don't need a bag, but sometimes it's kind of, I like having something to offer when they've made a purchase. It's something else you can say, which is quite nice. And also if people are buying things they don't want to get damaged, it's nice to have the option. Tablecloth, have to take that. And this is a weird one, money. I don't really use money anymore. I pay for everything using my phone or my watch. And I've barely ever used any cash during the pandemic, so that's going to be quite odd to go back to this. I usually take my money in a little tin. I have my standard float that I take to events, so I'm just about to go through this and see if there's any change I need to restock. Here I'm trying to decide how many of each issue of Cat Zine to pack. I kind of take a few more of my favourite issues or the ones that I think might sell more, but it's kind of always a little bit of guesswork. So I'm just aiming for kind of the right total number to take and hope that one particular issue doesn't sell out before the others. Thought bubble for me, books and zines and comics are the most important thing I'm going to be taking with me. So I've started with this. I've made this little tower of the books and zines that I'm going to be taking with me. I think I'm happy with the quantities now. Deciding what to take with you is always a nightmare. So one thing that I've learned to do way ahead of time is to check that my card reader's still working and that it's fully charged. I have had some disasters with these in the past, so definitely doing this a little bit ahead of time is a good idea. There was an update I had to do, so just doing that. And I also I hadn't used this in years, I had to re-download the app on my phone and I couldn't get them to connect at first. So all sorts of stuff, troubleshooting I had to do, but it looks like it's kind of working now, so that's good. One thing that I usually do ahead of a big event is just to do a little test payment as well, just to make absolutely sure that it's working. So now I'm starting to go through and check whether I have enough stock of my enamel pins to take with me. This design, the saguaro cactus, I have enough that are on the backing boards, I think, to take, but this matching pin, the prickly pear cactus, I need to add some to backing boards. Luckily, I have a few here that I had previously made. With this enamel pin, I actually print the backing boards myself and cut them out, which is a bit of a faff, but I do have some ready to go, thankfully. So I'm going to put some of these together now. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the saguaro cactus is kind of the slightly more popular of the two because it's a really recognisable kind of cactus shape. So I usually take a few more of those than these. But people do quite often like having the two as a pair as well. So I sell them at a lower price if you buy both together. I'm now sorting through some of the other small pins that I sell, enamel pins. Some of these need putting on backing boards. These are the backing boards that I have had printed, so I don't have to print these. And also my little business cards. I've got these really cute little business cards that people love to take. So I think this year I might be experimenting with not putting too many of them out on the table at once. So I think sometimes people take stuff just because it's there. And it seems like a waste to kind of give away too many if people are just going to kind of throw them away when they get home. So I might just put out a few at a time and it might discourage people from taking too many of them. I also decided I might take a few extra of the prickly pear pins, so I'm currently just printing off some more backing boards for those, which I'll also need to cut out neatly with a knife and a metal ruler. I'm just starting to cut out these pin backing boards now. Another fun aspect of printing my own stuff is that since I've created these kind of products, I've upgraded my printer and now the colours all print a little differently. So each time I kind of print something that I haven't printed for a while, I have to do some colour adjustment on the print file that I use. And in case you're wondering why I'm cutting these out by hand, I do have a guillotine here, a trimmer, but I've never found one that cuts with as perfect and smooth an edge as a knife and a ruler. So I will use this for some things, but something where I'm going to be selling it and I want it to look really nice, I'm just going to cut it by hand. Preparing for festivals is often quite a messy process. So far today the mess isn't too bad. But yeah, it'll be nice once I can get this stuff packed away into the suitcase and get it out of the way. Now that a lot of the small items are ready to go, I'm packing them. I have this little box that I've lined with bubble wrap in the hopes that this stuff won't get kind of bent or squashed. And so I'm just working on getting them all ready to take with me. And I'll probably pad this with more bubble wrap before I actually put it in the suitcase. And finally, when it comes to the small things, I've got these little plant badges, and I can see that last year I didn't actually sell any of these 4-packs. I sold 4 of the 2-packs. So I might just take a couple of these this year and focus mostly on the 2-packs. There's different designs in each one, and I know the one that has the kind of succulent is quite popular, so I'm going to dig around and see if I've got any more of those. Another thing I have to do is go through and make sure I have price labels for all of the products that I'm selling. Plus I have a sort of card payment one and things as well, and little information cards. I kind of like all the prices to be really obvious and upfront on the table, so I do a little individual price tag for each item. Obviously these are a little bit of a pain if you decide to change the price of something. You have to print up a new one and cut it out. And often I'm selling things in different combinations. My zines, at one point I was selling subscriptions, and I was selling them in packs of 4s and 2 issues, and I was also selling a complete set of 8 issues. I've sold out of one of the issues now, so I can't sell the complete set, so I've gone back to selling 2 and 4, which I've had to make a new sign for. Here's some of the old signs, which I kind of hang on to in case I need them again. So many, including some of the ones in here at prices in dollars and all sorts. So yeah, just going through my spreadsheet and figuring out exactly what I need for this particular event and making sure it's all here. One of the new things I decided to make for this year for the festival was a little sign to kind of show off that my book was named as a graphic novel of the year by the New York Times. It always feels really weird and gross doing something like this, but then again, if it's going to make someone, you know, stop and look at the book when they wouldn't have done otherwise, then I'm going to do it. So here we go, all packed. These are the 2 bags I'll be taking with me. Quite heavy because of all the books, but hopefully I'll sell quite a few of those. Of course, I haven't packed anything like clothes or toiletries or anything either, or snacks, but let's face it, that stuff is of less importance. So I'll be figuring that out tomorrow and just trying to cram it into any little space I have left here. Overall, that took about 6 hours. Took about 20 minutes off for lunch, but yeah, 6 hours. And I also spent a bit of time, probably an hour a couple of weeks ago, getting some prints ready. So yeah, maybe 7 hours total.
I don't think she's going to appreciate that surprise birthday.
No, so she's going to have a plan for her to have a black baby shower.
This service now approaches to Leeds. Leeds is your next station call. It then goes forward from Leeds to Hotspur and to Harrogate, up to Harrogate 1623. There will be a change of train manager at this station. Please listen to further announcements from the oncoming crew at Leeds station.
So it's Saturday morning, the first day of Thought Bubble starts soon. We arrived last night with a little bit of time spare to go into the venue and set up my table, which was really good. It's fantastic if you're able to do that because it makes the morning a lot less stressful. When you have to set up your table and get it all ready as people are starting to come in, it's a bit stressful. So now I'm all set up, I can just kind of stroll in and I'm ready to go. So hopefully it'll be a good day. This is the garden of my hotel. It's actually really lovely, and there's a nice view as well. Well, just finished with day one of Thought Bubble and I've got the whole drawing room of the hotel to myself. Just waiting for Sergio to bring some dinner, and I'm taking advantage of having this whole room to myself. I'll just show you how close the convention centre is to where we're staying. It's there. It's now Monday morning, so I've been through the whole of the weekend festival and I'm just getting ready to head back to London. It's been really, really lovely. I think it started a little slowly and I was kind of thinking, oh, there's not as many people here maybe as previous years. But it was really, really steady, and in the end, I mean, I have a sort of amount of takings that I usually make at Thought Bubble. And on a really good year, like the year I launched my first book, Follow Me In, I made more than that. But other than that, I usually make kind of the same amount each year. And this year I only made £30 under that. So that's a pretty good result, I think. I'm just really happy with that. And it was also just so lovely to see everyone. I think a lot of the creators were really happy to see each other after so long. And it's always nice to see creators that don't live in London as well. Met some lovely people as well that were buying my things. I talked to a lady who had visited Mexico after reading my book, Follow Me In, which made me so happy. And yeah, I just had some really nice conversations with people. They did a really good job with all the sort of COVID safety stuff. Everyone was wearing masks in the festival pretty much. And you had to show proof of vaccination to get in, I think. So yeah, it's been a really lovely stay. I mean, the only time that felt a bit dicey in terms of us trying not to get sick was the train up, because it was absolutely packed, and we had to eat on the train. it kind of crossed over lunchtime, and nobody on the train carriage was wearing masks. I only saw one other person, and it was packed. So, but you know, there's only so much you can do really if you have to take a train. There's no other option. But yeah, it's been a really, really lovely weekend. It's been really relaxed. It's been nice staying so close to the venue because I was able to just sort of pop home to have my lunch each day rather than trying to eat behind my table or whatever. So I would just kind of leave, go to the hotel for half an hour and come back. Yeah, it's really lovely. If anyone's watching this that kind of said hi to me at the festival, thank you. And hopefully I'll be back next year. So it's now December. Been back from Thought Bubble for a few weeks now, and I've been editing my vlog and thought I'd record a really quick little conclusion about some of the things I was talking about in the episode. First thing to report back on, I took very little cash payments at the festival, hardly any at all. It was all cards, so I guess this is just how things are now, which is great. People selling at these events don't need to worry too much about cash floats and stuff. I made one further sale when I got home that was definitely from Thought Bubble. Someone contacted me saying they'd seen my work on the Thought Bubble website and they ordered some zines, so that was lovely. That kind of took my takings really close to what I would have got on a normal year, so that was really good. I was really happy with how many copies of my books I sold, especially Breakwater, because that came out during the pandemic and this was my first opportunity to sell it to people at an event, so that went really well. I didn't sell a lot of pins, that was odd. I usually sell loads of those because there's always people walking past the table who don't necessarily want to buy a book, or your book isn't their cup of tea, but quite often people will pick up something small like a badge or a pin. I sold hardly any of that stuff, so that was kind of interesting. It'll be interesting to see at future events how that goes. I had been thinking I need to do something, make a more interesting display of my pins, or find a way to display them on the table so that they look better. So that's something for me to work on. And the other thing I came away from the event wondering about was whether to get one of those banners that people have behind their table. You can kind of get them printed with whatever you want and they roll up into a little package that you can carry and unroll when you get there. And I've always resisted getting one because I've never really thought it was necessary, and I've always just thought they're heavy, it's an extra thing to carry. But then this time I did kind of come away thinking it might be something I might try for next time. I think there are two main advantages to having one. One is that if someone's looking for your table specifically, it does make it an awful lot easier to find if your name is big and up above you, rather than people have to kind of scan the contents of each table to find the people they're looking for, or use the map obviously. But when you're kind of walking around and it's crazy busy, you tend to kind of get a bit overwhelmed. So having a really clear thing with your name above you is probably a good idea. And also I guess there's just the factor that for people that don't know your work, it maybe gives your table a little bit of extra weight to where they'll think, oh, this person, has a banner, so maybe it's worth looking at what they're selling. I don't know how to put it, but I guess you know what I mean. I think sometimes you can walk past tables that look quite bare or don't have a lot of stuff on them, and you can kind of walk past thinking, you know, I won't stop to look at that. So as many things as possible, I guess, on your table to make people want to have a look. The final thing I've been thinking about is the fact that there's always social stuff going on, loads of stuff going on around the festival and in the evenings and stuff. And I don't tend to take part in very much of it. I'm just always aware of how exhausted I get over the weekend. And so staying out late, drinking, is something I try to avoid. But most years there's a meal with Avery Hill Publishing, the publisher I work for, where everyone gets together either the Friday night or the Saturday night. And this year I didn't go to it, mostly because I'm still trying to be careful with COVID and trying not to get sick. And I just thought, I'm spending, 2 8-hour days in a hall with hundreds of people, and at least everyone there will be masked, but in a restaurant you can't really wear a mask. So I just decided to skip it this year. My housemate has a health condition that means I try to be as careful as possible. And what was interesting was that I found that I wasn't quite as drained by the whole weekend as I usually am, and it made me think that it might just be something I have to do going forward, is really just be aware that if I want the energy to get through the second day of the festival and not be completely exhausted, that maybe I have to kind of stay away from all social things, which is a bit sad because I always really want to catch up with people. But you can still do that to a degree during the festival itself. And then there's always opportunities to catch up with people in other ways at other times. So that was just something that I noticed, that throughout the Sunday, usually I'm kind of, barely getting through it and absolutely running on empty. And this year I had enough energy to kind of almost quite enjoy the second day. So yeah, that was something else that I learnt. Anyway, I hope you found it interesting to see a little bit about the festival and how I sort of prepare for it and get through it. And I'll see you on the next vlog.